to another episode of the Worth Loving Podcast. I am your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I am so excited that you're here with me today. So today, we are going to be talking about something that I kind of referenced a couple of weeks ago, but we're really going to go into detail and talk about something that's very important. Now, in this topic, I do want you to know that sometimes, whenever we're talking about self-awareness, self-growth, and choosing yourself, it might feel uncomfortable. But if self-awareness, self-worth, and growth, and acts of courage feel uncomfortable, then that is a great sign that we are moving in the right direction and that this is exactly what we need to be celebrating. So today's episode is one that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, we did kind of reference it. But this is something that really sits close to my heart. And this is why it's important to talk about it, because what we're going to talk about today is one of the things that many people experience in relationships that are unhealthy. So today we're going to talk about why low self-worth attracts toxic partners and how to break that cycle. Because it's one thing to recognize, I may have low self-worth. Maybe this is why I'm attracting toxic partners. But it's important to know that this is a cycle that can be broken. You are not doomed to have negative relationships and unhealthy relationships for life, okay? So this is definitely something we can definitely work on and break that cycle. This is a topic that affects many people, especially those who have experienced like emotional neglect, inconsistent love, or trauma in past relationships. And if you've ever found yourself asking, why do I keep choosing the same person over and over and over in different people? Or why do I fall for people who hurt me? Then this episode is definitely for you. So before we jump in, I want to remind you that this is a space that is trauma informed. We don't shame ourselves for patterns we developed in a survival mode. We don't judge ourselves for what we didn't know. And our goal is just to simply learn, grow, and move forward with compassion. Dr. Kristin Neff, one of the leading researchers on self-compassion, teaches that healing begins when we stop treating ourselves like an enemy and start treating ourselves like someone worth caring for. And that's the energy I want you guys to bring into today's conversation. So let's take a deep breath, settle in, and we're going to talk about the deeper reasons behind patterns that you've experienced, and more importantly, how you can finally break free from them. So last week on the podcast, we talked about ghosting, breadcrumbing, and modern dating games, and why these behaviors happen. So we broke down how ghosting often comes from emotional avoidance, fear of confrontation, or just a lack of relational maturity. Breadcrumbing, on the other hand, is rooted in a desire to keep someone emotionally available without offering real commitment. And modern dating games in general, they give off mixed signals. Those are the games that make you feel the hot, or make you see hot and cold behavior, the inconsistency. These are often symptoms of people who don't know how to show up fully, honestly, or responsibly in relationships. We also talked about how these behaviors are not reflections of you or your self-worth. They are reflections of the person's emotional capacity. That distinction really matters, because when you internalize someone else's inconsistency as a statement about your value, it becomes easier to tolerate harmful patterns. But here's the bridge into today's episode. Even though ghosting and breadcrumbing are about their emotional immaturity, many of us repeatedly attract those kinds of partners because of the deeper self-worth wounds. When you don't fully believe you deserve consistent, safe, emotionally present love, you're more likely to tolerate partners who give you the bare minimum. You're more likely to confuse inconsistency with chemistry. You're more likely to accept breadcrumbs because you don't believe you can have the whole meal. Dr. Harriet Lerner, a renowned psychologist known for her work on relational dynamics, explains that people with low self-esteem or low self-worth often normalize emotional imbalances because it feels familiar. So if chaos is present in early relationships, chaos can feel like home, even when it hurts. So today we're going to go deeper. We're going to explore why low self-worth creates vulnerability to toxic partners and how to break that cycle once and for all. And if you missed last week's episode of the podcast, I do want to remind you that you can listen to the full episode by clicking the link in the show notes. Before we dive back into today's conversation, I want to take a minute to personally invite you into something very special, into my You Are Worth Loving signature coaching program. This is my 12-week trauma-informed coaching experience designed to help you break unhealthy patterns, rebuild your self-worth, and create emotionally safe relationships that actually feel good for your soul. If you've been listening to the Worth Loving podcast and thinking, I'm ready for deeper support, this is your next step. Inside the program, we work together one-on-one to help you reconnect with your voice, your boundaries, and your confidence so you can stop settling for relationships that drain you and start choosing ones that honor you. I'm only taking 3 clients for the month of May because I honestly want to give each person the time, energy, and care they deserve. So, if you've been waiting for a sign to start your healing journey, this is it. Click the Stan Store link in the show notes to apply or learn more. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy of relationships that feel safe, healthy, and whole. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Low self-worth doesn't always look like insecurity on the surface. Sometimes it looks like being overly confident, overly independent, or overly accommodating. But underneath these behaviors is often a fear of not being enough, not being chosen, or not being worthy of love. In dating, low self-worth can show up in subtle but powerful ways. It looks like accepting bare minimum effort because you don't want to seem too demanding. It looks like feeling grateful for attention instead of evaluating whether the person is actually good for you. It looks like ignoring red flags because you're afraid of losing the connection. It looks like over-explaining yourself, over-giving, or over-functioning in relationships because you feel like you have to earn love. It can also look confusing because it can look like you are looking for intensity and you think that intensity is intimacy. So when you confuse intensity with intimacy, that can also be a sign of low self-worth. When someone comes in fast, love bombs you, or creates emotional highs and lows, it can feel like passion, but it's actually instability. And instability often feels familiar to people who grew up around inconsistent love. Dr. Brené Brown's research on worthiness shows that people who struggle with self-worth often tolerate relationships that mirror their internal beliefs. So if you believe you're too much, you'll choose partners who make you feel like you're too much. If you believe you're not enough, you'll choose partners who treat you like you're not enough. The relationship becomes a reflection of the wound. Here's an example. So if someone cancels plans last minute and your first thought is, I shouldn't have expected anything instead of, whoa, that was disrespectful, then that is low self-worth speaking. It's not that you don't deserve better, it's that you've been conditioned to expect less. One of the biggest reasons low self-worth attracts toxic partners is because it feels familiar. If you grew up around emotional inconsistency, unpredictability, or instability, your nervous system learns to associate chaos with connection. So even though chaos feels uncomfortable, it is also familiar, and the brain often chooses what feels familiar over safety. Dr. Harriet Lerner explains that humans are drawn to what feels familiar, even when it's harmful. So if love in your early life was inconsistent, conditional, or unpredictable, you might unconsciously seek partners who recreate these dynamics, not because you want pain, but because your nervous system recognized the pattern. So here's what it looks like in real life. You meet someone who is inconsistent. Sometimes they're warm, sometimes they're distant, but instead of seeing this as a red flag, you're drawn to them. You feel a spark, you feel chemistry. But what you're actually feeling is something that is familiar. Your body recognizes the emotional pattern even if your mind doesn't. Another example, you meet someone who is stable, kind, and emotionally available, and you feel bored, you feel uncomfortable. You tell yourself, there's no chemistry here. But what's really happening is that your nervous system doesn't know how to interpret emotional safety. It feels foreign. It feels suspicious. It feels too calm. This is why people with low self-worth often end up in relationships that mirror their past. The chaos feels like home. And even when home was painful, it is something that is familiar. So breaking this cycle requires learning how to regulate your nervous system, practicing self-compassion, and slowly teaching yourself that calm is not a threat, it's safety. Trauma bonding is one of the most powerful forces that keep people stuck in toxic relationships. And it happens when a partner gives you intermediate reinforcement, meaning they alternate between affection and withdrawal. Affection and withdrawal. So this creates emotional highs and lows that feel addictive. And people with low self-worth are especially vulnerable to these patterns because they're already craving validation. Psychologist Patrick Carnes, who coined the term trauma bonding, explains that intermittent reinforcement creates a cycle when the brain becomes hooked on the unpredictable reward. So when someone is inconsistent, let's say loving one moment, distant the next, your nervous system becomes hyper-focused on getting back that good moment. You start working harder, giving more, tolerating more, just to feel that connection again. So here's what it could look like. A partner pulls away for days, then suddenly comes back with affection. So instead of being angry about the disappearance, you feel relieved. You feel grateful. You feel reconnected. That relief reinforces the bond, even though the behavior was harmful. Another example, you confront a partner about their behavior, and instead of accountability, they give you just enough affection to calm you down. A sweet message, a compliment, a promise. You accept it because you want the connection, not the conflict. But this teaches them that minimal effort resets the relationship. Trauma bonding makes toxic partners feel irreplaceable, even when they're hurting you. It makes you believe that relationship is special because the highs feel so intense. But intensity is not intimacy, it's instability. Breaking trauma bonds does require consistency, it requires boundaries, and reconnecting with your own worth so you no longer chase emotional crumbs. People with low self-worth often struggle with boundaries because they feel that setting limits will lead to rejection. When you don't believe you're worthy of healthy love, you may tolerate behaviors that violate your emotional safety just to keep the connection. Dr. Brené Brown's research shows that people with strong boundaries are actually the most compassionate because they protect their emotional energy. But people with low self-worth often believe boundaries are too mean, too much, or selfish. This makes them vulnerable to toxic partners who take advantage of their openness. Here's what that can look like. A partner constantly shows up late, cancel plans, or give inconsistent communication. But instead of addressing it, you tell yourself, it's fine, even though it hurts. And you minimize your needs because you are afraid of losing them. Another example might be a partner raises their voice, dismisses your feelings, or make jokes at your expense. But instead of saying, hey, that is not okay, you stay silent. You convince yourself you're being dramatic or sensitive, even though the behavior is really disrespectful. Toxic partners thrive in environments where boundaries are weak because it allows them to control the dynamics. They know that you're not going to leave. They know you're going to tolerate more than you should, and that imbalance reinforces the cycle. Breaking this pattern requires learning to set boundaries without guilt. It means understanding that boundaries do not push people away. And I'm going to say that again. It means understanding that boundaries don't push people away, but instead they filter out the people who were never meant to stay or be in your life. Fear of abandonment is one of the deepest wounds connected to low self-worth. When you fear being left, you may cling to relationships that are often harmful simply because the idea of being alone feels unbearable. That fear often comes from childhood experiences of emotional inconsistency, neglect, or loss. Psychologist John Bowlby, his attachment theory explains that early relational experiences shape how we respond to connection and separation. So if you grew up feeling emotionally abandoned, you may develop anxious attachment, a pattern where you cling tightly to relationships, even unhealthy ones, because losing them feels like losing safety. So here's what that could look like. A partner mistreats you, but instead of leaving, you try harder. You overfunction, you overgive, you try to fix the relationship because losing it feels like losing stability. Another example would be you stay in situationships where your needs are not being met because you fear that asking for more will push the person away. You accept the bare minimum because it feels safer than risking abandonment. So fear of abandonment, as you can see, makes toxic partners feel like they are the only options. It makes you believe that even harmful love is better than no love. But that belief is rooted in survival and is not true. Breaking this pattern requires healing, your emotional attachment wounds. It requires building emotional safety within yourself and learning that being alone is not abandonment, it is protection. Years ago when I was a kid, there was this song, I think it was by Deborah Cox, and it was like, I'd rather be alone than be unhappy. And even then, it says that being in toxic relationships with toxic people who mistreat you and make you upset and mess with your peace of mind and your emotional stability, it is not worth it. It is better to be alone than be with people like that. People with low self-worth often seek external validation because they don't feel secure internally. Toxic partners can sense this vulnerability and then they use it to control the relationship. So what they'll do is give just enough validation to keep you hooked, but not enough to create emotional safety. Dr. Kristin Neff's research shows that people who lack self-compassion often rely heavily on external approval. They look to others to determine their value. This makes them vulnerable to people who manipulate that need. So here's what that could look like. A partner compliments you occasionally, and those rare moments feel like oxygen. You cling to their approval, even though this behavior is inconsistent. You start shaping yourself around what they like, what they want, and what you think keeps them happy. Another example might be you feel anxious when they pull away because their attention feels like proof of your worth. So when they come back, you feel relieved. Not because the relationship is healthy, but because you feel validated again. Validation seeking creates a dynamic where the toxic partner becomes the source of your self-esteem, and that imbalance keeps you stuck. So in order to break this pattern, it requires building internal validation, learning to affirm yourself, and trusting yourself, and valuing yourself without needing someone else to confirm it. Breaking the cycle of attracting toxic partners begins with rebuilding your relationship with yourself. You cannot choose healthy love when you don't believe you deserve it. You cannot set boundaries when you fear losing people. And you cannot recognize emotional safety when chaos feels familiar. So the first step is self-compassion. Dr. Kristin Neff teaches that self-compassion is the foundation of healing because it helps you to shift your internal dialogue from criticism to care. So when you treat yourself with kindness, you stop tolerating relationships that treat you with harm. The second step is learning what healthy actually looks like. And I think I just may do a podcast episode on what a healthy relationship looks like, because it's very important to be able to spot a healthy relationship so that you'll know what an unhealthy relationship is. So when we talk about healthy relationships, healthy love is consistent. It is calm. It is emotionally safe. It doesn't confuse you. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't make you question your worth. So when you understand the markers of healthy connection, you stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. The third step is boundaries. Yes, boundaries. Remember, guys, boundaries are not walls. They are doors. They protect your emotional space, and they filter out people who cannot meet you with respect. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you, and you teach yourself what you deserve. The fourth step is healing attachment wounds. Now, this could involve going to therapy, journaling, seeing a coach, or learning your attachment style. When you heal the fear of abandonment, you stop clinging to relationships that actually hurt you. And the final step is choosing partners based on values and not validation. Look for emotional availability. Look for accountability. Look for kindness and consistency. These qualities build real intimacy, not chaos. Breaking the cycle is not about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about compassion and choosing differently, one step at a time. Now, the song we're going to listen to today is called Toxic, and it is about a woman who is choosing toxic partners, and she keeps getting the same result time after time and time again. So here's the song Toxic by our podcast artist and my alter ego, Emery Rose.
Say to you, cause you took my kindness and played me for a fool. People try to tell me something was wrong with you, truth. Now I can't stop crying over you. I am devastated, I don't know what to do. Now I can't stop crying over you. I am devastated, I don't know what to do. Your love was toxic, it was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. Your love was toxic, it was toxic. It was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. My addiction to you was real. I loved you so much, but you didn't feel the same way. You took advantage of my heart by cheating, lying, gaslighting, and telling me I was wrong. Now I can't stop crying over you. I am devastated, I don't know what to do. Now I can't stop crying over you. I am devastated, I don't know what to do. Your love was toxic, your love was toxic. It was like a drug, it was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. Your love was toxic, your love was toxic. It was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. You would say that you love me, but then you would ignore me and act distant. Over and over, you did the same thing while I tried to earn your love and affection. You play with my mind, you disrespected me. I feel so much relief now that you're gone. Your love was toxic, your love was toxic. It was like a drug, it was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. Your love was toxic, your love was toxic. It was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside. Your love was toxic. It was like a drug. It made me feel good while it destroyed me from the inside.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember this. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. You are not destined to repeat the same relationship patterns forever. The fact that you're here, listening, learning, and growing is proof that you are already breaking the cycle. Self-worth is not something you earn. It's something you reclaim. It's something you rebuild through compassion, boundaries, healing, and choosing yourself over chaos. And every time you choose emotional safety over instability, you strengthen that worth. If today's episode resonated with you, I want you to take a minute to reflect on one question. What is one pattern I'm ready to release? I want you to write it down, sit with it, and let that be your starting point. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for showing up for yourself. And thank you for allowing me to be with you on this journey of healing and self-worth. Next week, we're diving into another powerful topic that will help you continue building healthy, emotional, safe relationships. But until then, I want you to remember that you are worthy of love that doesn't hurt. I want you to remember that you are worthy of love that doesn't confuse you. And finally, you are worthy of a love that doesn't make you question your value. You are worth loving, fully, deeply, and without conditions. Until next week, have an amazing day and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
I had to realize that I was worth loving. I had to realize